One of the single most important lessons in this course is that you do not need a unique product in the vast majority of cases. This is true in business to business, and it's also true in business to consumer. This has been empirically proven, so I'm not just pulling out anecdotal examples. It's true generally across the board. Now, there are very important exceptions. There are cases where having a fundamentally different product does matter, and I'm going to go into a lot of detail and explanation of what those exceptions are, but generally, uniqueness is not the key to success. An example I like to use here is from the show The Simpsons. So, in The Simpsons, Homer Simpson comes up with this unique product. It's a bubble car, something that nobody has ever seen before. And it highlights one of the biggest examples of product management mistakes, which is the belief that coming out with something unique means that you're basically going to have a monopoly and you're going to be very profitable. But we see in Homer Simpson's case that it basically bankrupts the business. People generally don't want anything unique or fundamentally different. They have somewhat preset ideas of what they're looking for. So, an example of this was I was recently shopping on Amazon for a pizza cutter. And there are basically two types of pizza cutters there's the round one, and then there's the big chopping knife like one. And I wanted one of the round ones. Now, when you search on Amazon, you can see that the top sellers all pretty much look exactly the same. We have a handle, we have a circular cutter, we have a handle, a circular cutter, a handle, a circular color, and a handle and a circular cutter. They're all basically around the same size. This one is the only one that really stands out because part of the handle is a different color. This one's steel, this one's black. So there's really nothing particularly unique about any of them. They all even have a guard to protect your hand from getting sliced. So what it shows you is that this is what people are buying. This is what they're looking for. They're not looking for uniqueness. They're looking for something that does a good job of executing what they're already looking for. Now, we can also look at the entertainment business. Let's take a look at these movies. So, Avatar is one of the highest earning movies of all time. I believe it was the highest earning for a very long period. And Avatar is basically just telling the same story with a slight little twist. So, it's the same story as Pocahontas, which is also the same story as The Last Samurai, which is the same story as Dances with Wolves. And this isn't a secret. Nobody's hiding this fact that it's not a unique story. There's nothing to hide here. All they did was they took Dances with Wolves and they said, well, let's just do it on an alien planet. Now, that is different, but it's different in a very minute way. So typically what happens with these blockbuster movies, the ones that are successful, is they'll follow, say, 9 of the 10 standard things that you would expect from that genre, and they'll make one little twist, one little surprise. So maybe the story is usually about a man, they'll make it about a woman, or if it's normally about a human, they'll make it about an alien. Just a little bit of novelty, but generally people just sort of want the standard run of the mill story. And that's the key to success in a lot of cases. I'm going to give you another example. I did a Google search recently for luxury products for men that last, so very durable products. And what we see here are 1, 2, 3, 4 different Google listings for web pages. And all of them basically say the same thing. Luxury products for men who have everything, who have everything, who have everything. They've repeated the same line in 3 of the 4 of them. This one's just a little bit different, but it's still basically getting at the same thing. Why is that? Because that's what people want. That's what they're looking for. So there's the novelty here isn't what is making these articles successful or these products successful. It's really just catering to where the demand is. Here's another entertainment product that was highly successful. It was the most popular Korean drama for a period, the show King the Land. Now, King the Land is not a unique story whatsoever. They basically took every stereotype from every Korean drama ever made, they smashed it together in a new product, and it was a huge hit. Nothing unique whatsoever. And generally, that's how highly successful products make it. Now, there are very important exceptions. So I'm talking about how products should not be different, but there are cases where difference really does matter a lot. So, number one, professional services. When people are looking for engineering consultants, when they're looking for a doctor, when they're looking for somebody who's a professional advisor, they really do want somebody that is a specialist, somebody who is an expert, somebody who's different from generalists. Number two, new product categories. So, if your product is highly innovative, such that you're actually creating a new category or competing in new space, then really what you're doing here is you're not so much differentiating your product from other products. You're actually differentiating a new product category from an old product category. And that's where differences, fundamental differences, uniqueness matters. And lastly, we have strategic business to business products, or more generally, what I would say are highly involved purchases. Now, I'm going to talk in more detail about this later, but strategic purchases are ones where management, typically the C suite or VPs, are spending a lot of time evaluating the monetary value of the different products. And then they're making a decision of which one to go with. And usually that happens in cases where the product helps the business differentiate their product to their customers. And this is the definition that I'm taking from Dr. James Anderson. So I don't want to take credit for that. Now, more generally, we could say that we're talking about highly involved purchases where people are evaluating the monetary value of that product relative to other ones. But in most cases, most products don't fit that. Now, since we're talking about product management and not service management, we can also pretty much ignore this top category, professional services, because we're marketing products. Now, it gets a little more complicated when you're dealing with something like enterprise software, SaaS, because in that case, there is an element of service that typically gets bundled with the product. And often that gets up to, say, 20-25% of the contract value is actually customized services. So, in general, I would say that there's this ethos that we should pursue a blue ocean strategy. Now, a blue ocean strategy comes from this very popular book called Blue Ocean Strategy, which essentially says, let's avoid the red ocean, which is where all the competitors are killing each other, producing blood, and focus on the blue ocean, these areas where there's no competition. But I would say, in generally, that's not the best approach to take. But in some cases, when you're dealing with new product categories, the blue ocean strategy is applicable. Now, to further build my case that your product doesn't need to be fundamentally different, I'm bringing up this article from Harvard Business Review, which I highly recommend you check out because it talks about how customers really think, especially in business to business spaces, what is it they're actually looking for? And this is the article Tiebreaker Selling. And in this article, they mention that most purchases are not strategic. In other words, most business to business buyers aren't actually going to be spending a lot of time evaluating the different options. So there's not really much point talking about how you're different because that's not even what they value. So they focus doggedly on their offerings' distinctive features, even when customers don't want or need them. So we see this in the marketing world all the time. We see this in the product management world all the time, an emphasis on uniqueness that the market just does not want at all. Now, this is also highlighted in the book How Brands Grow, another book I highly recommend you check out, which is based on a lot of empirical data on how products are successful. And the author is basically arguing that people don't want anything different. They just want something that's superficially distinctive. And what that means is that it has some sort of iconic logo or mascot. It has perhaps some different branded colors. Maybe there's a slightly different shape to the product that basically says this comes from this company, this comes from this brand. Not necessarily this is fundamentally different or it uses features and designs that I don't see in competing products. That's not what people value. They don't value uniqueness. Now, so if your product doesn't need to be unique, which is one of my central arguments in most cases, how do you win? How are you supposed to be successful in a situation like that? And it's actually a very important question. And one of the key things is you win simply by being more visible. People like things that are more familiar, People don't buy things they don't see, that they don't notice, that isn't on the shelf, that isn't on Google search, that isn't on Amazon, that isn't on apps.com. They buy things that are visible. And that is really how you're competing with other people. You're competing for mind share and you're competing for distribution share, essentially. And one of the ways that you can build visibility is by essentially building PR, public relations, word of mouth into the product itself. Now, here's a cool example of this. We have this luggage called crash baggage that comes pre-dented. So the product itself, kind of like ripped jeans, is dented by design. So they've actually created a mold so that the product looks like it's been damaged. Now, does that feature make any sense from a value proposition perspective? If you survey a bunch of customers, is anybody going to say, oh, I want a pre-dented luggage? No, no, it's not really a fundamental value thing. It's not a scientific answer to a problem. What it's an answer to is visibility. Because if you design something that is worthy of word of mouth, you're more likely to get published in newspapers. You're more likely to get noticed in ads. You're more likely to gain superior visibility rather than your competing products. And that's why you're going to win in the market.